The excitement around the New York Yankees farm system has been growing louder with every passing day of spring training. And one of the biggest reasons for that buzz is a young arm that is starting to make people across baseball pay attention. Anyone who watches latest outing knows exactly why the conversation is getting louder. In a sport where perfection almost never exists, watching a pitcher come close to it for several innings can be electrifying. That is exactly what happened the other night when Carlos stepped on the mound and delivered a performance that immediately had fans talking. Over the course of 4 scoreless innings, he looked calm, explosive, and incredibly efficient. The radar gun lit up repeatedly as he unleashed fastballs that reached 103 miles per hour, with the hardest one registering at 103.1. It was not just about a single pitch either. Over the entire outing, he threw 19 fastballs and averaged 101.5 miles per hour with the pitch. When you hear a number like that repeated again and again, it almost sounds unreal, like something you would expect from a video game rather than a real pitcher on a real mound. What made the performance even more impressive was the efficiency. In those 4 innings of work, he needed only 42 pitches to get through the lineup. That kind of command combined with that kind of power is exactly what organizations dream about when they talk about building future rotations. The Yankees have had talented pitchers before, but it has been quite some time since the system produced someone who consistently throws with this level of raw velocity. Watching him attack hitters with confidence gave a glimpse of what could be possible if everything continues to develop in the right direction. The one question that has followed him during his climb through the minor leagues has been command. At times, he has struggled to consistently locate his pitches, and that has occasionally led to higher walk totals than the team would prefer. But if he manages to tighten that part of his game even slightly, the ceiling becomes incredibly high. That is why many people inside the organization still see him as a future starting pitcher rather than someone destined for the bullpen. The temptation with a power arm is always to imagine what that velocity could look like coming out of the bullpen in short bursts. However, when a pitcher shows signs that he could dominate across multiple innings, the conversation changes completely. Instead of thinking about a late-inning reliever, the Yankees are looking at the possibility of a frontline starter who could anchor the rotation for years. That potential is what makes every one of his outings so fascinating to watch. So far this spring, the results have backed up the hype in a big way. Carlos currently owns a 0.93 earned run average, an opponent batting average of just 125, and a 0.72 walks and hits per inning pitched. Those numbers reflect more than just velocity. They show a pitcher who is beginning to understand how to attack hitters and control the tempo of the game. And the exciting part for Yankees fans is that he is not the only young arm showing promise this spring. Cam Schlittler has also been turning heads with his recent performances, and his latest start only added to the growing confidence around him. In that outing, he retired 12 of the first 14 hitters he faced, displaying the kind of control and movement that can make life miserable for opposing lineups. One of the most interesting parts of his performance was the way he used his cutter. Rather than relying on a single version of the pitch, he mixed in 2 slightly different variations, keeping hitters off balance throughout the game. Out of the 46 pitches he threw that night, 28 came in at speeds above 95 miles per hour. That combination of velocity and pitch variation is exactly what allows a pitcher to succeed at the highest level. Schlittler already proved last season that he could handle pressure situations. During the previous year, he made 16 starts and finished with an earned run average just over 2.90. Several of those appearances came in meaningful games when the Yankees needed strong pitching, and he delivered consistently. That kind of reliability is not easy for a young pitcher, especially in an environment where every inning can carry postseason implications. What made his story even more encouraging this spring is that he dealt with a small setback early on. A minor back issue forced him to miss a bit of time, which naturally raised concerns about how quickly he would return to form. But judging from the way he has been throwing lately, those worries appear to be fading quickly. Interestingly, he has not been relying heavily on his changeup so far during spring training. Some pitchers use the spring to experiment with their entire arsenal, while others prefer to focus on sharpening their primary weapons before the regular season begins. In Schlittler's case, the fastball and cutter combination has been more than enough to dominate hitters in these early outings. Eventually, he will need to mix the changeup back into his repertoire to keep major league hitters guessing. But for now, the priority seems to be building rhythm and confidence on the mound. Judging by the results, that strategy appears to be working perfectly. When fans start imagining what the Yankees' rotation could look like a few seasons from now, it becomes easy to get excited about the possibilities. Picture a rotation anchored by Schlittler and Carlos for the next 5 or 6 years, both pitchers entering their prime at the same time and feeding off each other's competitive energy. That scenario suddenly gives the organization a foundation that could support consistent postseason runs. And the depth does not stop there either. The system also includes other promising arms like Elmer Rodriguez and Ben Hess, adding even more layers to an already intriguing pitching pipeline. For an organization that has always valued strong pitching, seeing this much potential developing at once is incredibly encouraging. Of course, pitching has not been the only storyline grabbing attention this spring. One of the most exciting young hitters in the system continues to make noise every time he steps into the batter's box. Jason Dominguez has been swinging the bat with authority, and his latest home run only added to the growing list of impressive moments from his spring. This time the ball left the yard against one of the most recognizable pitchers in baseball, reminding everyone that his power is very real. That blast marked his 3rd home run of the spring, and while some people are quick to dismiss spring training numbers, performances like this still create plenty of excitement among fans. Dominguez is currently hitting .333 with 3 home runs and 9 runs batted in, along with an on-base plus slugging mark above 1,000. Those numbers tell the story of a hitter who is seeing the ball well and driving it with confidence. Even though there's a strong possibility that he begins the season in the minor leagues in order to receive everyday at-bats, the progress he is showing right now matters. Development is rarely a straight line, but when a young player consistently produces against quality pitching during the spring, it reinforces the belief that his breakthrough moment could be approaching sooner rather than later. Another encouraging detail has been his improvement from the right side of the plate. Switch hitters often need extra time to refine their mechanics from both sides, and Dominguez has been putting in the work to strengthen that part of his game. One of his recent home runs came batting right-handed, a moment that caught the attention of many observers who have been tracking his progress closely. Seeing that kind of development adds another layer of excitement because it suggests that his offensive ceiling might still be climbing. As long as he continues refining his approach and gaining experience, there is every reason to believe his impact at the major league level could be significant once the opportunity arrives. While Dominguez has been grabbing attention with the bat, he is not the only young outfielder creating excitement in the organization. Spencer Jones has also been showing why so many evaluators believe his power could eventually translate into a major impact at the highest level. Even though the Yankees recently reassigned him to minor league camp, that decision was never really about performance. It was always about development and making sure he receives the consistent playing time necessary to continue polishing his game. Jones is expected to begin the year at the AAA level, where he will have the opportunity to face advanced pitching on a daily basis. That environment should give him the repetitions he needs to refine his approach at the plate while continuing to display the kind of power that made him one of the most talked about prospects in the system. Last season alone, he demonstrated exactly what that power can look like when everything clicks. Launching 35 home runs across the minor leagues is not something that happens by accident. It reflects a combination of bat speed, strength, and a willingness to attack pitches with authority. For hitters like Jones and Dominguez, the next step is not simply about hitting the ball far. It is about learning when to be aggressive and when to stay patient, recognizing the difference between pitches they can drive and pitches they should let pass. That process takes time, but the encouraging sign is that both players appear eager to embrace the challenge. Their hunger to prove themselves has been visible throughout the spring, and that kind of competitive edge often becomes the fuel that pushes prospects to the next level. The presence of that internal competition also creates an interesting situation when it comes to the current Major League roster. Trent Grisham finds himself in a position where expectations are going to follow him closely throughout the upcoming season. His spring numbers so far have not been particularly strong. Entering the next phase of camp, he has been hitting 182 with no home runs, 3 runs batted in, and on base plus slugging percentage sitting at .507. Those numbers naturally raise questions, especially when fans see younger players putting together impressive performances at the same time. However, judging a veteran strictly based on spring training results can be misleading, and the Yankees understand that reality better than anyone. Only one season ago, Grisham delivered one of the most productive offensive campaigns of his career. During the 2025 season, he launched 34 home runs and finished with an on-base plus slugging mark comfortably above .800. That level of production demonstrated just how dangerous his bat can be when he is locked in at the plate. Injuries also played a role in parts of the previous year, particularly a hamstring issue that limited his mobility for stretches of the season. If he enters the new year fully healthy, there is every reason to believe he can once again provide strong defense in center field while supplying significant power in the lineup. Defense has always been one of the defining parts of Grisham's game. Interestingly, last season represented one of the more difficult defensive stretches of his career in center field, which makes the upcoming year even more important for him to reestablish that reputation. When he is moving freely and reacting instinctively off the bat, he has the range and instincts to cover large portions of the outfield. Pairing that defensive ability with his power potential makes him a valuable piece for the Yankees, particularly in a lineup that always benefits from players capable of changing the game with one swing. At the same time, the reality of baseball is that performance ultimately determines opportunity. Grisham is entering the season on a 1-year contract worth more than $22 million, which means the organization has flexibility depending on how things unfold. If he performs the way he did in 2025, launching somewhere between 28 and 30 home runs while providing solid defense, the Yankees will gladly take that production. But if he struggles to replicate that form, the team knows it has talented young outfielders waiting in the wings and eager for their chance. That dynamic creates a natural sense of urgency, not only for the veteran trying to secure his role, but also for the prospects determined to prove they belong in the major leagues. Dominguez in particular has always thrived in the minor leagues when given regular at-bats. His ability to drive the ball to all fields and generate power from both sides of the plate has been evident since the beginning of his professional career. If he continues producing at the same pace once the regular season begins in the minors, the conversation about bringing him back to the major league roster could accelerate quickly. The same applies to Spencer Jones, whose consistent power production keeps him firmly in the organization's long-term plans. Having multiple talented outfielders pushing each other creates a healthy environment where everyone knows that strong performance will eventually be rewarded. But before we continue, please remember to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support allows us to keep bringing you the latest news about the New York Yankees. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments. The roar that echoed through the stadium after Aaron Judge's latest swing may have lasted only a few seconds, but the ripple it sent through the World Baseball Classic could last much longer. In a tournament built on national pride and unpredictable heroes, the towering American slugger reminded everyone why so many believe Team USA might be on the verge of something special. When Judge connected with the pitch, the crack of the bat seemed to split the night in two. The ball soared high and deep, climbing toward the stands as thousands of American fans rose almost in unison. For a moment, the atmosphere felt less like a mid-tournament clash and more like a defining chapter in a championship story waiting to be written. The home run itself was spectacular, but what followed may have mattered even more. Judge raised his arm as he rounded the bases, acknowledging the thunderous applause from supporters waving flags and chanting his name. Cameras caught teammates in the dugout erupting in celebration, while social media quickly flooded with clips of the blast that many are already calling one of the most electric moments of this year's competition. Inside the American camp, The swing has fueled growing whispers that this could be the moment the tournament tilts in the United States' favor. Judge, already one of the most feared hitters in the sport, appears to be embracing the pressure of representing his country. His presence in the lineup has given the team a sense of inevitability whenever he steps into the batter's box. Around the tournament, rival teams are paying close attention. Opposing pitchers know that a single mistake to Judge can instantly change the energy of an entire stadium. And while one swing doesn't win a title, moments like this often become the emotional sparks that carry teams deep into international tournaments. Fans back home are already allowing themselves to dream. With a roster stacked with talent and a leader capable of delivering unforgettable highlights, the idea of the United States lifting the World Baseball Classic trophy again suddenly feels less like optimism and more like a real possibility. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the New York Yankees, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.